Hello, how are you? My name's CC Arshagra, and welcome to Fertile Brains solo poetry recital. This is a first for me, and I would like to welcome everyone who's listening and everyone around the world. And I love what Prasanna Kumar has done and what he is doing in his dedication to poetry and the voice, which is kind of the point of my life. The what I'm going to do for you today is share with you a very significant part of my life's work, and that is that 20 years ago, my um, life led me from the movement and the healing arts, which is another story for another time, into the open microphone in the early 90s. And I was just floored by the idea that you could walk into a room, write your name down on a piece of paper, speak your mind, call it poetry in this context, and not be killed. That is not a small thing to live beyond the fear of expressing your free creative mind. And so the open microphone merged with my life and the journey of my life. And every one of us here has been handed a certain gift and a certain trial in life also. Some people are burdened by their privilege, and some people are burdened by their poverty, or whatever it is that this reality that we come into defines us, rather than us coming into our creative being and defining what is life. And so the open microphone is almost a cornerstone of democracy and freedom of being, and transcendence into spirit of being beyond war and carnage and the realities of life that actually cause us as a human family to fail at humanity and to divide among nations, among cultures, among worldviews, religions. Killing in the name of God and so forth is not the way we should be handling it at this day and age with this technology where I could speak to the world from a desk. This is the book that I am speaking of. It is called The Open Microphone. It originally existed as a chapbook series, and it was called The Open Mic Poems. There were three of them. They looked like this back in the day. Death of an Ego was number two. Scared Sacred was number one. What Manner of Character was number three. And I'm going to go into that a little bit today. Those three books have come together, and in this book, there is an essay, three essays, one on each of those sections, describing to you what it was like to publish these 20 years later in this book. It's available on my website, which is ccarshagra.com. I believe I'm going to, for those of you watching, I put this little thing down there. That's very simple. That is my website. The book is there. And I put today the ebook up today. So from around the world, you'll be able to download the ebook. And I never loaded an ebook, so I put a price down, and then I put a third. So I like the number three sometimes. So for $3.33, you could do that. I'm sorry, and I apologize if that sounded like an ad. That is not why I'm here. But poets do need to eat too. I know. Ooh, poets need to eat. They should all starve and be poor. No, they should not. So thank you again, Prasanna. And the open microphone begins with my journey stepping up to the open microphone. But I can't do this without telling you that my last name, Arshagra, is born of my grandfather's name, Arshag. Arshag Tarvain was an Armenian genocide survivor, and I don't say this to bring up an ethnicity or the genocide or what happened to people, or that human beings on the planet Earth kill other human beings because they are an other. I just watched the movie Till, about Emmett Till. You should all see that. And I usually don't plug a film, but I think if you could watch this and cry, then you're in good shape. So you have the right to speak your mind regardless of where you are in relationship to your intelligence, as you were told intelligence is. The open microphone is a critical vehicle. And I believe, as an optimist, that the human family is going through a trial with technology and machines and AI and all this globalist stuff that's going on. The world that we live in is deteriorating, but as it falls, it is going to grasp at last straws to try to divide us as a human family, between brothers and sisters, between races and religions, between ethnicities and languages. We are going to be divided, but the open microphone is a place where we can come together. And with this platform online throughout the world, I'm going to stick around to the end of this. I'm going to mention something that's going on. And I'm going to ask you all to invite yourself to read at something that I'm producing. The very first poem in the series is called Open Microphone Number 1 from Scared Sacred. Scared Sacred is about stepping up to the microphone and doing this for the first time. Whether you're the poet laureate of the world or the universe or your state or your country or your college or your town, or whether this is your very first poem in your reading, you are of equal value. One should be where they are in order to be where they are going. This is not an easy thing to say. So on that note, graphic as the wind through mouth passages, the invisible wit speaks and bounces off walls, falling down, down, and down through what appears to be no floor. Then it rises up and out through an expanding sky ceiling of raw opinions, listening as if recalling echoes of lost thoughts and all their lost meanings. Here lie the songscapes of many poetic efforts. Clear or not, the words are the believable blood cells of reading. A living voice aloud, the dying sounds may be good enough, right enough, bad enough, wrong enough, enough to hear themselves as living poetry. When you go to an open microphone and you put up your name on a piece of paper, or you sign up to an online reading, this most recent phenomena, you are entering into the realm of free speech and inclusivity. The ego, fame, popularity, competition, competing against your fellow being better or worse, rather than being where you are and lifting each other up, is something that happens. So death of an ego is one of the reasons that I did not publish for 20 years. So I have manuscripts piled up. I have lyrics. I have paintings. I'm on my third solo art shows. I'm producing events and things like that. But I didn't publish because I believe that the lifespan, the click of your lifespan matters. And the ego is one of the ways that we are tripped up when we believe in ourselves so much that we forget to believe in everyone and everything and all. And that is a lesson that mostly is compacted into these poems. Each of these poems contains thousands of poets. I guesstimated 1,500 open microphone or open art environments that I went to in a 10-year span. And gods came to prey upon gods armed with ink. This is, the microphone said, before it was even turned on. Colorblind words spoke of nothing gray till crayon pieces fell to break with red reason. Here, iron-soled shoes were heard stepping on faces as the pain of flesh burdens dripped off the stage's edge. Insane mirror fragments flew, shattering brilliance, and shards of hate lay about with no useful shine or reflection. Then the open microphone closed, but not until the host read, "The death of ego came to be, and no gods wanted to die." Some poets, when you use the word God, or when you use divine or higher power or spiritual being or oneness, they feel like they get pigeonholed or cornered into whatever belief reared them into their spirit being and their belief system. But it's the language that we trip ourselves and each other over on. Be careful of that. Sometimes it's just a matter of semantics. That is the first poem in the second section, and they're simply numbered one, open microphone one onward until you get to the section, what manner of character. So what I would like to do next is read something else about from the ego section here. These are two of the poems that I like to share from this section. This book is available, again, the ebook. Feel free to download it. Just as of today, the ebook is now available. It's not on Amazon. I don't believe in Amazon. I think you should use bookshop.org or any independent bookstore, or just sell them yourself. If you can't afford to ship them, do the ebook thing. But I believe this book is not about me. It's not about me. Those words again, it is not about me. Life is not individual centric, where you're more important than everyone's heir. At the end, number 21, at the end of the reading, nobody applauded or cheered. Then the reader physically faded. The presence gone without ever leaving the stage, still lit and barren of poetry. Next, a hard gray appeared, a real fog that turned to stone. As a gravestone took form to mark the center stage, and upon it an inscription, a quiet motion in liquid red. The engraving said, I lived to the very ends of all my hopes lost, resurrection. On that note, I would just like to add, we as people and poets and artists and creators should not fear death. We should not be servants of fear. When we mute ourselves, we give our love and our power to these others on high, and that power will never be returned to you, and you will spend your lives and your children's lives aspiring to get back what you gave away and have always had. So be careful of that. Number 22, 5 rungs high and the sun came into reach. Here the ladder leaned steadily against the sky, held in place, secured by her accepting raw faith with only unknowable support. She stopped to rest, to breathe, to sigh. One long, slow release of intangible hope. 23. When she reached the reading stage of confidence, she stood still to face the landing she was on. Then she realized the poetry she had planned to read upon arrival was at home, under the shade tree, the place she wrote when she found time. Her mind flashed to see it pictured there, exposed to the oncoming weather. Her next step was all about believing in herself, followed by thoughts of children's rhymes and memories of painful knee scrapings. Then her lips moved in silence as she wrestled with a daydream about running from a rope's end that was throwing blinding lights at her. Then a chill shook her so hard it hurt, the shake induced by a real thought of a dear friend wounding her. And she was so close to reaching the stage of fears moving when she leaped with the ends of all her known faith. Then she died to find nothing had changed except her ego. Do not be afraid of giving the gift of death away. I'm inserting this. I usually don't do such a poetry reading with so you know, little philosophical little things and inputs and things like that. But I am here because I think this particular opportunity is important. And again, from Death of an Ego, the section, which I feel is a critical aspect of why this book belongs in everyone's hand. If I could give away 9 million copies to 9 million people and have them read it, I would, because we are ultimately in our own ways sometimes. When we defeat our enemy and our oppressor, in the end, if we don't understand that the energy of fear, the energy of hatred, the energy of being defeated ends up seeing, now I can be hatred. I can be the defeater. I can be, you got to be very, it slips like that. I was a cab driver for 10 years. And in that time, the Soviet Union fell, and a lot of people from Russia came over to. Human beings are in China. Human beings are in Russia. Human beings are all over the world in countries that are known to be oppressive nations, which other countries want to bomb and kill and keep you from them wanting to bomb and kill you. When really it's just the story of these leaders that lead us, that have separated us, that have too much power, and that will come to an end. And even if we think we are, it simply can't, because they are so afraid. Fear is afraid of love. Do not give your love away. Number 26. It's noontime here. I live in a small town, so we're gonna wait out this little siren. Every day the volunteer fire department siren goes off. Open microphone number 26. The perils of being. The deep belly laughs. The helium mind burns, and vivid nonsense drops a tear that cannot decide if it is happiness or the need to know pain. To be moved by your own awe deflating, your brilliant light popping into a burst of no sight and sound that cannot decide if it is an animal or the need to know God. Oh, to be poet, less intelligent than water, not wiser than air, or the knowledge of what breathes, your believing that your being matters. Or perhaps it is as simple as the dream of becoming human. The very first words I ever wrote were in my late teens as a poet. And then I didn't write again into my 20s, and that's when I started writing. I had, because of rote learning, which means I'm going to give you a 1 and I'm going to give you a 2. Now give me back a 3 and I'm going to call you intelligent. Here's your report card. You are now taught what knowledge is. And now that you've been told what something is, you give that something back. That is not critical thinking. That is not education. That is an indoctrination. That is a training. That is getting you ready to be a servant of some system that is apart from an other system. You belong to no one's army. You do not belong to fear. In the beginning of the book, in the first section, before I go to the third, I'm going to read one that's surreal a bit, but important. Minor miracles. And I got to remember this book was written before the internet, so this is a physical location and a surreal take on it. Minor miracles and this constant occurrence. The stage is undressed with empty voices, and ears are painted on seats spread about, with a few of the tabletops adorned with lip images. Here, a legend spoke of some sound-minded witnesses who have sworn on their graves to have seen the lips move and speak aloud, "I hear you, I hear you." The tale goes, you see, words appeared and then disappeared around each painted ear on each seat. All the words seemed to say the same thing, but each one expressed in its own way this thought: I hereby choose my independent listening. And on that very night at the open microphone, it was really not unlike the many, many others, when sounds off the stage changed the physical shape of hearts, influencing the wind to move the wings of hope in flight. Over the earth found emotional rains and ranges of tears falling, cold to dry, to quiet the sadness while soaking the loud now and now sounds of dead silence. Those who are happy here may remember being lost in the corners of minding darkness and becoming exposed to light, recalling how their pain hid and waited to be born, or life inspired as to fall in love by the reading of each word by word. Here, just for a living chance that a listening experience will be here, touched, faced, breath taken, and felt as finally heard. The book was originally written in I guess it goes back almost 25 years when I started writing them. It all came from a Boston Globe article written by Kate McQuaid, who gave a quote on the back of the book. And I don't know if you'd be able to read those quotes or not, but there they are. And I'm blessed that they appear. I don't know if I'm going to go over this time-wise and share with you anything, but way back, a friend of mine had a band in Hartford, and book 3 just came out, What Manner of Character. And What Manner of Character is different from 1 or 2. Each one is a character poem, for lack of a better term. The first one I'll read a little later on is called Mother Nothing. But then following that, there's one called Heartlock. There's one called The Jack of Poets, Alone the Poet, Passion the Poet. These are Love, Pain Free the Poet. These are I Know Less the Poet, Ego Vain. These are character poems. But every poem in this book represents hundreds, if not thousands, of arcs of experiences that a poet shows up at an open mic, lives their life, and deals with fame and failure and ego and esteem and stuff like that. And these are condensed into life lessons, soul lessons, if you will. And then, so they're not all pretty. Some of them are hard lessons that people live in and fail to learn, to live through. But they leave that lesson, and failures can teach us a lot. Dark times happen, and one of them was written before 9/11, even though it mentions 911, which in America is the number you call for an emergency help. And it's called Gas Mask. The open microphone, Gas Mask. When Gas Mask the poet walked into a reading, all heads would suddenly turn. The word sprayer and hate maker and poetic fumigator. He always set off a flurry of panicking whispers, most of them suggesting call 911. He seemed to manufacture terror while supplying and distributing a fear of never having enough oxygen. His sweaty hands always clenching a small, convenient cell phone, never knowing when he might need to call up his stockbroker. His favorite things to shout out in public were, "This is America, there's no need to panic. We are the world's police force. Pay attention and invest in the military complex." And of course, we must save all the World Bank markets. Gas Mask always carried a large leather suitcase with 2 words printed on it that read, "First class." Or was it "class first"? Either way, that's where he kept his wares. He sold t-shirts that read, "The human race is dead," and gas masks at $20.99. Or 1 free should you buy a copy of his book, Kill Public Poetry, which tells about how people move out of his way to avoid all that he permeates with his airborne presence. The freedom to speak, the freedom to get up and say something within a context where fear rules that reality, and that reality of fear is safe enough to cause fear in others, but not in those that distribute the fear. When you turn on the news in just about every country now, there's no more journalism, hardly at all. Everything is, in America, there's baseball. And in baseball, the 2 most famous teams that goes way back is the Yankees and the Red Sox. Sometimes I like to say there are no more Red Sox fans. There are only people who hate the Yankees, and there are no more Yankee fans, only people who hate the Red Sox. And the same thing can go through for politics. There's no more Democrats, only people who hate the Republicans, and there are no more Republicans. That's how they sell us our next president. They just sell us to hate the other. America is being divided by the corruption of media. What's in America, there's a system of government where there's 3 branches of government: the executive branch, the judicial branch, and the legislative branch. And they're supposed to be divided. There's supposed to be a separation of powers there. And if the 3 fail and become one, what is known as the 4th estate is journalism. That's supposed to rescue democracy. We're supposed to become an informed public, but they have played into this dichotomy of reality that they feed us: fear and hatred, fear and hatred, fear and hatred. If you let the TV fear turn you into fear, you're going to be used to produce inhumanity, and never look at who produces or what produces the demise of humankind, just so people can stay in power for years and centuries. So that is one of the darker ones in there, one of the more story type ones. My personal favorite is Nobody. Nobody the poet was happily alive. Nobody respected death and at least expected the same in return. Nobody felt free to live the art of being alive. Nobody had enough dreams to work on, blaming no thing, no one, and nothing. For fault simply was a gift to not even be blamed upon nature or the weather for now. And there were more than enough flowers dying in the rain, and each was hungry for a little peace with sun. Our emotional realities, and when we come into the open microphone, and when we come into free speech, and when we come into our human rights, a lot of times we bring with us the very first step out of our burden and into ourselves that we didn't even know we were entitled to play a role in creating who we are as life forms. And when that happens, we bring in our emotional work. And so there's a phrase in poetry called confessional poetry. And as you know, open microphone is it's a way to communicate. We are community. We're culture, and we are alone together, but we're alone. And it's not an easy lesson to learn the difference between alone and lonely. But there's a grave difference there, a beautiful difference there too. Because sometimes you just want to be left alone. And yet I'm all alone. Politicians that show up inside the poetry world is real. You can't blame people who want to believe in survival over love, because survival is real in love. Love is seen as a weakness to the predator and the prey world of inhumanity. I believe everyone will be doing all of humankind a favor if they stop referring to themselves as humans when they're not, when they believe that they are better than anything or one. Then you're simply declaring your inhumanity. You're a survivalist. And that's fine. No one can stop you from being a predator or a prey in this world, but just leave the word human alone if you don't want to be one. And that's honest. And I think honesty and truth are different. So when somebody walks into a situation, any situation in family, culture, school, not just open microphone, but you walk into culture, into collaboration with other lives. And if you're a survivor and you want to be important, you want to belong, and then you look around and you see the stratification of life, not the community of life, not lifting everyone, not helping the cripple, not seeing for the blind, not finding a way to interpret to the deaf, but to take advantage of and find a position of rank. We should avoid that we naturally fall back into feudal behaviors. When given freedom, we're afraid of it. So we look for leaders. And when that happens, you create a vacuum of power, and somebody comes in there and says, hey, I'll be your friend. But maybe that person's a fake friend. The open microphone fake friend. Fake friend, the poet plays the politics of kindness. He has a handshake that could capture your confidence, a sinister sense of compassion that moves smooth and steadily toward using you. He will attach the teeth of his smile to your weak need to feel that you must be told that you're supported, while sliding nearer and nearer to the sounds that your heart makes, till he could smell your blood beating and get high on his delirium. Laugh at you to reduce the tension you may sense, draw you close and closer still to bite deep into your giving gift, and drain you to walk, to refresh the walk of his decaying corpse, justifying himself in his pain-giving way to avenge his own innocence that may have been taken by the cold, inhumane war game he calls survival. As a poet, we come to these nexuses, these fulcrum points, these center beliefs that really everything we're trying to heal and understand and resolve and transcend come together. And when we get there, that's when poets ask the greatest questions. You should write into that question, but not just about it, but through it. There's a translation of a Kabir poem that has my favorite line in poetry. If you have not lived through something, it is not true. It's from the Rag and Bone Shop of the Heart. There's 2 Kabir poems in that. And I believe he goes back to the 8th century. Time we could learn. There's a lot that I could read here, but I'm gonna move around here. I am gonna finish with. I think I can keep going, but I think I'm gonna wrap it up a little bit here. I'm gonna read Mother Nothing and then okay. So let me just keep going. Just being newborn, God was playing with a stuffed puppet. Something rattled in the cage of universal silence. It broke sound into stardust and galaxies, then planets. Solar systems came to entertain orbits. God threw a temper tantrum, and interpretation scattered. Here, Mother Nothing said, "It's bedtime for you, child." Heartlock is about it. Jack of Poets is very important. It's the only one in here about Jack Powers. Stone Soup Poets is one of the oldest open mic ongoing venues in America. It's not perfectly ongoing, but it goes way back over 50 years. And Jack Powers was an important person. He had his own trials in life, but he created a voice, a platform for voices and all voices, and really set the role of inclusivity rather than the stratification of poetry, the sportification of poetry. Be careful of the sportification of poetry. There's some amazing poets and poetries coming out of the world of what we call now slam poetry, but it is competition in the arts. And there's a hook in there that is dangerous. It can, in the long run, cause a demise of free speech because it can create a sport and winners. But for every winner, there's thousands of losers, and it can make leaders rather than contributions to life and arts, like the greatest painter, the greatest spoken word artist. Lisa King comes to mind. She's a poet, a slam poet who died young. I'm going to read Whisper and finish with Walker. Whisper, the poet, riveted the silence. The drama of her soft, bitter, sweet secret pulls you underneath thought's seed and gently shakes your dreams awake. Oh, she'd never read beneath the levels of your sleeping ears to guide you closer to your fears. Give your tears the room to fall true. She'd reach the place that is safe inside you and glide you toward your next breath's rest, where away you shed the face of stress to discover what connects you to your soul's gift. She'd tap the doubts you carry daily, enlighten you to be yourself, with no religion, God, or icon, no hero, heroine, guardian, or drug. She'd tickle your pain when your vengeance wants to harden and spare you from becoming exactly what you hate. She'd walk your soul to its quiet threshold, but she cannot take for you this last step. She may vibrate in your presence, lighten your mirror, but to see who you are is still your own choice. She's not a wish or fantasy, for she resides alive, and she does not invade your soul's body or free will. She's here in your mind, for you let her be there, where you can never know how to hold her. If you think to possess her, she will fly away, leaving you to prey on your own self. The difference? Utter honesty. Within now is a listening key. Here, she will place one thought, one lone thought on your mind. The smallest lie is the loudest measure. She whispered this, laughing with you on one face. You alone know what deceives yourself or any other. For she is not a muse you exhaust for power. She will play no role in the game of your ego. Away her wind lifts, lifting you clear through senses of awe and all uncertain spirits, moving you round, still in flesh, floating wonder. She drifts away, motionless, leaving you breathless. My name again is CC Arshagra. The book is The Open Microphone. The website is CC Arshagra. Instagram is CC Arshagra. Facebook is Arshagra. It's spelled that way. I did these little things to help you out. Okay. And the book is there. The download is available as of today. I didn't know what the price is, so I just boop. Anyway. I can't do this without saying that my work in print exists because of David Cody. And there's a poem in here. Oh, angel, angel of light, angel of dark, angel of nothing, oh, empty, empty angel. I'll let you read that. Hopefully you'll buy the book. But I will end with Walker, the last poem in the book. And I want to thank Kate McQuaid, David Amram, Ron Whitehead, Melissa Goodrum, Tony Vandermeer, and Jeff Robinson for words of praise on the back. Walker. Thank you, Prasanna Kumar and Fertile Brains. And if anyone is interested in reading at a hybrid open mic, cornwalllibrary.org on the 29th. Go there and say you want to read internationally and share this with exactly one other person from a country that's not where you are and ask them to do the same. The list is already full, but I need about 30 or 40 more poets saying they want to do that. So the library board will let me do an ongoing where somebody in the library reads and somebody from around the world reads. And they have the technology, and they took me 6 months to get into that. So good night, everyone. I love you. And here's the Walker. The poet Walker walks life and welcomes death home to be no longer alone without love. The poet Walker walks deep into the heart of the mind where fear is created. The poet Walker walks each stage of aging innocence that may be at war with itself. The poet Walker walks negativity back home to choose the ends of despair. The poet walker walks into the womb of hate on earth and releases the universal soul of love back to life before hate spawns, finally, again, more pain. The poet walker walks the share of water, the reminder of sky, failures that are born to the poetry of life. The poet walker walks the soul of the unreachable you. Love you all. Thank you. Here's my friend. He's back.